You don't need someone to tell you life could be better. You know that. But the part no one talks about is why it's so hard to change, even when you know you want to. I made this video for anyone who's been trying to change but keeps falling back to the old patterns of wasted potential. Let me show you how to get out of that loop. Now, think about what you've been wanting to do. What is it? Maybe you want to start a business. Maybe you want to learn a new skill like coding or juggling or learn how to speak Spanish. Maybe you've been wanting to eat healthier. Maybe you want to lose some weight. Maybe you've been wanting to make more friends, put yourself out there. Whatever it is you want to do, how intentional have you been about doing that? Or have you just thought about what you want to do, but you haven't put much intention behind that? And I don't ask this to like shame you or anything, but because most of us just don't know how to move intentional. Back when I used to sell, I would do one-on-one coaching. I had this one student of mine who wanted to build different habits. And one of the habits he wanted to build was reading. And I told him we got to start off with just reading one page a day. There's a method to my madness. And he was down for it. But the problem was he kept forgetting to read the one page. So I told him, why not just, after you take your nightly shower, you immediately read one page. And I told him, make sure the book is on the bed. So when you leave your bathroom, you can immediately see your book. And just like that, he went from struggling to read to reading every day. And eventually he started reading more than one page. He started reading 5, 10, and I don't know how much, but he was reading much more when he was more intentional about how he was going to do it instead of saying he wanted to do it. And so I'm asking you, are you being intentional? Are you being like my student, just wanting it, but not knowing how to go about it? So you can keep saying all these things you want to do and not get around to it, or you can learn how to be more intentional, which is what I want to show you in this video. Now, when it comes to bad habits, you don't have to be intentional. You don't have to structure bad habits into your life because we live in a society that promotes these bad habits in the first place. I mean, if you look around, you see everybody's on their phone, scrolling, eating junk food, not caring about their health. You see long lines at Chick-fil-A. You see tobacco stores like every 5 stores down you drive. Like, we are constantly promoted to do habits that work against us because we live in a society that wants us to stay weak-minded. I mean, that's as simple as it is. All you gotta do is look around. Who's teaching you how to start into self-mastery and how to be more intentional, how to think into the future to get what you want? Who's teaching you that? Nobody. What we're taught is how to obey authority, how to consume endlessly, and how to entertain ourselves until we're dead. If you don't want to be on that path of life anymore, you don't have to be. I was on that path. I was so consumed by that, but I was able to get out by learning how to live more intentionally, which is what I'm here to teach you how to do. But you got to make up in your mind that this is something you want. And intentionality is ultimately the way to go because the people who live with intention are living the lives they really want to be living because they're intentional about how they're moving. But people who don't live by intention get what's given to them by default. And what's given to us all by default is a job we don't like, years working that job, 2 days off every now and then, 2 days off every week, a vacation every now and then you get old and you retire and now you're too old to really enjoy life and then you die away. Like, do you want that? I don't want that. That's why I'm living more intention, and I want you to be able to do the same thing as well so you can get whatever it is you want from this life. So now you understand that bad habits, we're gonna be pulled to do that by default because we're in a society that wants you to do those things. That's why we have to be more intentional when it comes to good habits. So how can we do that? First, think about what habit do you want to begin. And I say habit, but you can also swap this word out for behavior. And why I'm focusing on habits or behaviors is because if you change what you do, you change what you get. So we have to just change what we choose to do on a consistent basis to change what we get. And one of the biggest things we can change that will affect us tremendously are our habits. Because we live out of habits like 95% of the time. So if you can intentionally engineer better habits into your life and then be controlled by them by default, then by default you are guaranteed a slope up in life because of your habits. So Think about whatever habit you want to start. For me, my habits were reading, meditating, working out, and writing. I really wanted to get more into that. So whatever habits you want to do, figure it out, and then ask yourself, how can you spend no more than 2 minutes doing that habit? So for me, when it came to reading, it was I'll read 5 pages a day. When it came to working out, it was I'll just go stand outside just to get out, and then I'll go back in, and eventually I'll get into walking. But I just want to build a habit of going outside with the intention to walk. With meditating, it was meditate for 30 seconds. For writing, it was write one word. So figure out how can you do this in less than 2 minutes. And then the last part is adding that 2 minute habit into this formula. I will do 2 minute habit at time or event in environment. Now, you might be thinking, I don't understand why you only want me to do 2 minutes of this habit. Like, that's not really going to change anything. And I will get into that in just a second. But let me explain the elements in that formula so you'll have a better understanding of how to use it. So 2 minute habit, you already know what it is. You already wrote it down. Time is just whatever time you're going to do it. 5 p.m., 6 a.m., 9:30, or whatever. Event is special. It's something you're already doing. So for example, taking a shower is something you already do. Watching TV is something you already do. Taking out the trash is something you already do. Just things you already do. And then environment is just the place you're gonna be at. Like library, kitchen, office, car, outside, whatever. So here's an example of how you can use this formula. Let's say my habit was I want to read. My 2 minute habit was to read 5 pages. The formula for this is I will read 5 pages after I drink my morning glass of water in my bedroom. So that's the plan. And so now I know when I wake up and I already drink my water because that's an event. I always drink water first thing in the morning. I'm going to wake up, drink my water, and say, hey, wait a second. I just drank water. Now it's time for me to read 5 pages of this book. And then boom, that's how simple it is. Now, let's get back to the question of why only 2 minutes. If I told you to go to the gym and you've never been there before, and I got you to grab a very heavy weight and work out with it, then you leave and you feel pain. Would you want to come back? Or would you be like, would you push it off? And you'd be like, my body's got to heal. I can't go back. Oh, that trainer was crazy. He tried to kill me. I'm not gonna do this anymore. I don't even want to work out. Like, you would feel so much resistance to wanting to work out. But imagine you came up to me and you said, I want to work out. Help me get started. And all I did was give you a 2-pound weight and said, curl this 10 times and then leave. Well, you curl it 10 times. That's fine. You leave. Now, when you think back on that experience, you would think, that wasn't bad at all. That was really chill. And if that counts as working out, I'm going to go ahead and get that in. You're much more likely to go back. You feel less resistance, right? So you don't, and this is something that hurts so many people. They want to try new things, but then they want to go at it so aggressively and do the most without realizing that's not going to work out for them because it takes so much energy. And our brain wants to conserve energy. So if our brain sees this one thing you're doing as a lot of energy, it's going to make it feel so much harder for you to want to do that thing. Because your brain knows it's going to take a lot of energy. It doesn't want that. So it's going to try to make you stop yourself from doing it. You're going to feel lazy. You're going to feel burnt out. You're going to feel overwhelmed. You're going to feel like, oh no, this is too much. But if you lower the bar, then your brain doesn't trigger the resistance bell. And so you're able to keep going. Now, of course, you don't want to make the bar so low that you're bored. But you want to find something that, doesn't push you. Especially in the beginning of building a habit. In the beginning. Now, when the habit is formed, you can do more, right? I started off by writing 1 word a day to build the habit of writing. But once it became habitual for me to just write, that's when I started writing 500 words, 700 words, 1,000 words. That's when I started making scripts daily, when I go through the book for an entrepreneur, because I started small and built the habit first. Most of us don't build a habit. We just go in hard and then fall off. Now, if you want to do more than 2 minutes and you feel like you can, then that means you just benefited from the law of motion, which states what's in motion most likely will stay in motion unless acted on by a force of energy, and what's out of motion tends to stay out of motion unless acted upon by a force of energy. The force of energy we're using is the 2-minute rule, because the 2-minute rule is so simple for you to get started. That gets you started. Now a lot of motion kicks in because you're in motion now, you're going to stay in motion. So you may do more times than not. You'll be surprised that when you get started on that habit, you'll do more than what you initially intended to. But just make sure that you stop doing that habit when you feel good, not when you feel bad and drained out, because we tend to remember the beginning and last of something. Like we can remember the beginning of a movie and the ending of a movie a lot better than the middle of the movie. And so if you do this new habit and you start feeling good, but you end feeling bad, you're gonna remember subconsciously that doing that habit made you feel bad. So then you don't want to do it anymore. But if you stop when you feel good, even though you really want to keep going, if you stop, then when it's time to go back again, you'll think, wait, that felt good, that was fun, let me do it again. And then you'll be pulled back to doing that. So these are just some tips that I've learned along the way that really helped me. And I really want you to get the most value out of this video. So I just really want to share all of that with you. Now, like I said, I've used 2-minute habits to start reading, writing, meditating, exercising. I have made so many more habits, and it all came down to understanding how they work. And this is I don't know if you can see my cat, but it all comes down to understanding how they work. So let me know what your 2-minute habits are going to be in the comments. Now, making a plan like we did for your habits is essential for living with more intention. If you aren't, if you don't be more structured with how you move, you're going to stay on the default mode of living like most people are. Most people don't want to, wake up and have to go immediately work and then come home and sit on the couch and watch TV and stuff the face with junk food and not amount to much in life. Most people don't want that, but they don't know how to move intentional to get out of that trap. That's why I made the course, Design Your Life, the first thing in my description. If you are serious about learning what it takes to be more intentional, stay on that path, and get what you want from life, you'll find that in that course. Now, make sure that another tip is that 2-minute habit, make sure you can see the plan you wrote for it daily. Make it your wallpaper or hang it somewhere on your walls that when you're walking by, you constantly see it. Because the more you see it, the more you'll subconsciously remember it. And so when you have free time, you'll choose to do that habit more than just, wasting time doing nothing. And also make sure that whatever you need to do that habit is in the room. So if you want to work out, you want to do more yoga, make sure the yoga mat's already out. You want to make music, well, make sure the equipment for making music is already out. Because if you have to go get it, then you're most likely not going to do it. Now, if you actually use these ideas, you will change your habits. You will engineer better habits into your life. And since we are controlled 95% of the time by our habits, then by default, your life will go up because you have the habits that make your life go up. It's as simple as that. But if you don't follow this advice and you keep trying to use willpower and brute force to do things and you don't target your habits, then you're just going to get what's given to you by default. And nobody likes that. I don't want it. I know you don't want it. So it's your choice what you choose to do. If you like this video, subscribe, give a thumbs up, the rest, and I will see you for the next one.